We are waiting for the girls' sweater that I think I'm going to be cast on. I haven't 100% decided, but...
Marley is cleaning.
Sorry. Blanket. Got my new color going. Hello, welcome to a homespun house. My name is Molly and I am the owner of a homespun house. I am here today to chat with you all about all of the things that I have been making this past week. I think in the last episode I mentioned a few pairs of socks that I had been working on, and one of the pair of socks that I had been knitting was the Tea Time at Brambly hedge pair of socks. And I had worn these to our bungalow that we've been working on and cleaning up the yard and preparing for springtime, summer. So we live in this home throughout all of the year, but then we have another summer home that we go and visit. We stay there all summer for the 6 weeks that the girls have free of school. And then we visit throughout the week and sometimes weekends leading up to summer and in the fall. And soon, hopefully we'll be able to stay there in the weekends in the winter. Our fireplace or our heated stove is almost finished. So that's very, very exciting. In the last episode, I mentioned that I had been wearing my Tea Time at Brambly hedge socks, which are right here, that I had been wearing them while working in the garden. And I had been wearing them with a pair of garden clogs, and they got so dirty. So this is a cream-based sock, and it looks like Robert, my husband, he does all of the laundry in our home. It looks like he just I don't know what he did with these after they came out of the wash. But they look a little desperate. So this is difficult to show you, but these socks didn't get clean. I had hoped, because I had only worn them once, put them in the wash immediately and soaked them, that the dirt would come out of them, but it didn't completely. So here's Tea Time at Brambly hedge. We have gumdrop here. This is a form of poppy. It's a little bit lighter, and then electric feel. So this is one of our Patreon sock sets. This was our March Patreon sock set. We have some extras, and so those are all in the shop right now if you'd like to get your hands on them. It's a one-of-a-kind colorway, so it's not something that I will or am able to dye again later, but these are so much fun. It's the first pair of socks in a long time that I knit for myself and put directly on my feet. I was so excited to have these finished. It's just, they have so many fun, pretty pops of color. I really love these socks, and I knit them quite quickly because they were so much fun with all those different speckles. I don't remember if I shared my Fred and George Weasley happy birthday socks, so I'm just going to show them to you quickly. We have a monthly Harry Potter Happy Birthday Hogwarts Yarn Club in the shop, and these were the Fred and George happy birthday socks. These were so much fun to knit, and yeah, I really, really love them. So right now we have Happy Birthday Draco Malfoy, and that will be closing in the next week or two. All right. Now, because I didn't have any socks on the needles after I finished this pair, I decided I needed to cast some on. As I mentioned in the last episode, we were going to our bungalow. We were staying over the weekend and kind of visiting throughout the week, which was wonderful, by the way. Here in the area of Germany where we live, it was 27 on Saturday, not sunny and a bit windy. So the weather was nice, but Sunday was 25, pretty much full sun all day. So it was a really lovely day. I didn't do that much work on Sunday because 25 degrees and full sun felt so hot. So any like crazy movement, even raking the leaves, which I say even, but raking the leaves is so exhausting. I haven't raked leaves in quite some time, and let me tell you, I forgot how exhausting raking the leaves is. I knew that I had to cast a pair of socks on to bring with me to the bungalow. And I just looked through all of my scraps of yarn for scraps that I had that were 50 grams around then. If it was 45 to 50, that would have been okay. I grabbed this colorway. This is the summer of 69, I think. Oh, or it could be Beach Baby. It's a colorway that I think we came out with 2 years ago. I honestly don't remember. And I thought, I measured it and I had somewhere between 49 and 50 grams. It kept kind of jumping back and forth, the scale. And I thought, okay, that's totally fine. I know that I can get a shorty pair of socks out of these. I wear a size European 39 or German 39-40, American 8.5, 9. And I can definitely get a pair of socks out of a 50 gram skein. So how I do that is I use a contrasting color for the cuff. And when I'm knitting a pair of shorter socks like this, I do 20 to 25 rounds. And then I do 35 rounds for the leg. Any more, and I'm gambling a little bit, I usually have 3 to 5 grams afterwards. So I have more than enough, but I'm not going to do more than 35. And then I do my heel in a different color like you see here. So I knit to the leg here, set it aside, and then I knit this one to the leg, and then I just have continued knitting on this. So this is a 60 stitch sock, and I'm using double pointed needles, Haya Sharps. And I did a heel flap and gusset. I always do that in a contrasting color if I'm using a 50 gram skein, and then same with the toe. I do in a contrasting color as well. And there's absolutely no problem with getting a full sock for an 8.5, 9 American or 39-40. Definitely size 40 is what I do for these socks. And I have never had a time that I hadn't had enough yarn. So these are super cute. Here I have our colorway Amethyst on top. It's a tonal in the shop. This is our favorite book colorway. It's a colorway that I did again I think 2 years ago. And it's not one that will be back in the shop. And then here we have Seafoam. This is a tonal also that's not in the shop. Sorry about that, but these are so much fun. It's something that I've just kind of been putting on the side to work on when we're traveling and I need something small. We went to a cafe yesterday while the girls were at handball, and this is just the perfect small portable thing to take along with me, and I've really been enjoying knitting on socks. Also very excited because I know these will be finished soon, because we do a lot of car driving around with the girls, going to handball and then sitting in parks or sitting in cafes, hanging out. And all that I bring along with me, for the most part, is socks. So our April Patreon sock sets are currently in the oven, ready to be rinsed. Robert will be doing that today. Robert is my husband. He does all the rinsing of the yarn and hanging and drying and all of that. And so tomorrow I could, if I wanted to, cast on the Patreon socks. I don't think so though. I think I will wait until I finish these ones and then I will be casting those on. So I love having socks on my needles. I'd love to hear if you guys always try to have a pair of socks on your needles. I realize as I'm talking about this that I've gone quite a long time without chatting about the sweater that I have finished here. So this is the Inge sweater by Leno Holme Samsø, and I finished this sweater. So I knit this differently than what the pattern called for as far as yarn. I used a non-superwash yarn for this main color of the sweater, and this is our juniper colorway. And then I used Surrey for these diamonds, and I used our Scandinavian colorway. I held it double. I did get a few questions about that. I don't think I mentioned that in the last episode. So I held this double, always the Surrey. The DK weight juniper, I did not hold double. I just knit that on its own. And then I used Frieden, which is these little crosses, I guess. Also in the Surrey alpaca. So everything is in Surrey except for juniper, and the Surrey is held double. So as you can see, the sleeves are very big. And I know that's how the pattern is written, and I thought I would enjoy it, but I don't. They're so large, and this is a sweater that I knit with the thought of using in the evening when we're playing cards at our bungalow. I mentioned last time that we play rummy pretty much every evening. That's what we do. And it's a nice thing to put on, nice and warm. It feels like I'm wearing a blanket. I don't have anything under this, and it feels great. Now, when we're at our bungalow in the evenings, it will be cooler than it is here in our home. So I'll probably have a t-shirt or something underneath of it, but it's very, very comfortable next to the skin. That's one thing that I love about our DK weight about our non-superwash yarns is the more you wear them, the softer and truly more buttery they become. So this is just a really, really cozy knit. But the problem is with the sleeves here is there's always yard work to do at our bungalow. I have lots of flowers that I plant. We have so many flower beds that there's always weeds to be pulling, raking to be done, sweeping to be done as well, and cooking, just all of the things that you do when you're outside all the time. And yeah, this just gets in the way too much. So what I'm going to do is rip out the cuffs. I'll probably do a rapid decrease, and this will turn into more of a balloon style sleeve, just because they're too big. For me, it's not functional at all because I want to use it as a working style garment. I love it. I'm so happy I knit it. It was such a fun, quick knit that I'm really excited to cast on another sweater. I've knit 3 sweaters in the last 3 months. 2 of them were color work. One was that Oxa sweater that had that kind of cabled textured detail on the front. That was by Caitlin Hunter. The last 2 have been by Lena Holme Samsø, and I've just enjoyed knitting them so much. The next sweater that I want to knit is the overall completely cabled sweater by Kutavakika, Katarina Lindeberg. I mentioned it also in the last episode. And I'm quite sure that I do want to knit it out of this gumdrop colorway. I think that would be really gorgeous. But now I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to wonder if it's too late in the spring turning into summer season. I know summer is, well, I would say ages away, but it's actually not. That I don't know if it's something that I'll start and then just set aside. Now I'm starting to contemplate if it makes more sense to start that at the end of summer, coming into fall. I don't know. I really have to give it a thought, but I definitely will not be starting it this week because I am knitting on Hazel the chipmunk and I have a time crunch for that. It's not a huge time crunch because I have 4 weeks to get it finished. I looked at the calendar, saw how far exactly Ruby's birthday is, my youngest daughter, who's been wanting Hazel from the Moosh and Friends book by Cynthia Valet. Here is a picture of Hazel. She is so sweet. And I have 4 weeks, so I know that I have enough time. I'm trying to work on little bits. I kind of have a little goal for each week of what I would like to do, and it's definitely something that I can do. So Hazel is knit using a 2.5 millimeter needle, but for me with my gauge, I thought when you're knitting a stuffy, you don't want to see the wool roving or batting. It's not batting, but you don't want to see the wool that's in stuffing inside of your stuffy. So I went down to a 00 needle, so a 1.5, I believe what it is, millimeter. These needles are teeny. They're as small as a darning needle that you would use for fingering weight yarn. And when I first started knitting on this pattern, I had a really big problem because the needles just kept slipping through the stitches, just kept slipping out and slipping out. And I really had to be patient, take my time. I think I cast this on maybe 5 times because the needles just kept slipping out and it kept losing those cast-on stitches. So finally, I got it going. Now this is going to look weird and almost disturbing, I would say, because Hazel has these long threads coming out of her eyes. So you can't even really see what it is, but the construction of this is so cool. So you start here with her nose and then you kind of work up to her eyes. They have you place these strings where you're going to be putting the eyes of your squirrel. And then you go up around the head. It's pretty much all short row shaping is what you're doing while you're knitting her head. So now I'm working on the back of her head, and then I will be going down into her shoulders, and I'll see where it goes from there. But this is a very, very long pattern. I think it is at least 10 pages. Let's see. Yes, it's 11 pages long, this pattern. So it definitely is one where, you, as I mentioned also last time, it definitely is one where you need to read every line of every row that you're working on. So it's fun and it's neat in the fact that you see this little animal forming as you're knitting it. And I think if that element wasn't there, this would not be enjoyable. So soon I will be adding the eyes. And I think once you get her little face and features there, it will make it even more fun. So one thing that I did want to say is I am using the 00 or 1.5 millimeter needles. She's going to be smaller than called for in the pattern, but I'm very, very happy with the fabric that I'm getting and the gauge that I'm getting. I just wish that she wasn't going to be so teeny for her, because that would be a bit of a bummer. So I am using rose gold for the nose, the feet, the hands, and then I'm using pine cone. I'm using our fingering weight plump merino base, and then I'm pairing it with Surrey for her tail. So here in Germany, pretty much all of the squirrels are a very, very red color, but the American squirrels, at least that we had in Wisconsin, were very much this pine cone, brownish red color. And I think she's going to be so sweet. So I hope that Ruby loves her. I hope that I enjoy the whole process of knitting her. And it would be so much fun to enjoy it so much that I would like to make more, because I would love a few on a shelf in my office. I just think it would be so much fun to have it knit out of my yarn. And yeah, I think it's cool also because the book offers a lot of different patterns for clothing that you can knit for your animal. And I'll be knitting Hazel's dress, and then if I have time, I might knit. She's a lot of fun to make, and I can't wait to see her as she comes together. My cappuccino is getting a little bit cold. So I'm going to share these blankets with you now in the order of how I work them. I initially started working on all of the blankets that I'm going to share with you because I wanted to start using up my scraps. And let's be honest, I saw Kay knitting the jelly roll blanket, and I needed to cast on one too. Week after week after week after week. Finally, I thought, I know I have so many scraps, which womp womp womp, I don't. I thought I did, but once I started knitting and the jelly roll blanket ate up all of my scraps, I realized I don't have as many as I think. So I started it with that intention, and then I realized I needed more mini skeins. So each month for Patreon, we have 3 mini skeins that you get a month if you're on that tier. And then we have a sock set, which is a 50-gram skein with a 20-gram mini skein that you get each month if you have that tier also. And so that's 5 extras that I have for a blanket. When I'm finished with my socks, I can use the extras that I have in my blanket. And now I'm just using the mini skeins for blankets, plural. I know I said blanket too, but it's blankets, plural. So how I'm doing it is I'm starting my mini skein in my Cozy Memories blanket, which I've shared this already before. I've knit 10 squares since I last showed this to you. I knit this row right here going over, and this row right here going over. So I kind of, as I'm knitting this, I look around at the squares and I just kind of see what makes me happy to put next to each square. I knit on this yesterday, kind of in the dark, and I added this color and this color, and I feel like they look a little bit silly in their placement, but if you guys have ever knit in the dark, you know that yarns look completely different. And I was aware of this as I was knitting on it, but I still thought I really liked how it looked. And had I chosen in the day, I would have picked something else. So I've cast on this next square just so it's ready when I want to knit on it and work on it. And I love knitting this blanket. So each square uses a teeny bit more than 4 grams of yarn. So I use that first part of the mini skein in here. And I started dyeing up our monthly minis again. This was something that I offered for a while, some time ago. And I knew that I needed to bring it back because of all of these blankets that I'm having so much fun working on. So once I add my 4 grams to the Cozy Memories blanket, I then add the next yarn to my jelly roll blanket. I'm knitting this with fingering weight held double. And I used Kay from the Crazy Sock Lady, her notes on how she attaches her stripes to get this sort of an exposed seam. And I really, really love that. So here is the new color or strip that I added this past week. And that's how I'm knitting this. I'm trying to add 1 strip a week, and that's easy. I get it done pretty quickly, and I really, really enjoy and get into a rhythm definitely while I'm knitting this. So this is a lot of fun. It definitely is heavier than the other blankets, but it feels amazing, the weight of it. It's really nice and warm, and it's growing. It grows so fast, this blanket. So I can't recommend this enough. Same with the Cozy Memories blanket. It is such a fun knit. I was going to say it's my favorite blanket of all the blankets, but I really love all my blankets, and I have a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That I can think of, I have 9 knitted blankets. 8, one of those is crochet. And I'm working on another crochet one, which I don't think I've shared at all with you. Maybe I'll do that next time. So this is a lot of fun. I am using a size 3mm needle for this. And yeah, I'm loving it. Really, really loving knitting on that. So once I use my scraps in here and then in here, I throw what's left over into a new blanket that I have started. I had mentioned that I really wanted to start a new blanket. I didn't know if I wanted to do a boucle one, like this one that I have here, or if I wanted to do a fingering weight with mohair held double and do either my own design or make a cozy comfort throw. And last week when we headed to our bungalow, I had brought the yarn for my socks, although I brought the yarn and I had already cast on the cuff of the first sock or the second sock maybe. And then I started knitting the legs in the main color. And I realized that I only had the main color width, which meant that while I was there, I couldn't knit farther. I didn't have any extra yarn for the heel. And I'm so happy that I had planned before we left, because I put all of my extra yarns that I had already used in my Jelly Roll blanket and my Cozy Memories blanket. I put them all in this basket along with my skein of oatmeal on mohair silk. And I added them, or I began and cast on a cozy comfort throw. So this was the perfect thing to have with me, because it is just knitting back and forth and attaching colors using a magic knot. And it's really fun because, as you can see, I'm using all of these colors that I've used in this blanket as well as this blanket. And they're very, very bright, these colors. However, when added with oatmeal, it gives it just this gorgeous toned down effect. So I'm not having blankets that have all of the same exact colors. While I actually am, it really gives it a completely different effect. So I love this blanket so much. I think it's so pretty. It's so much fun to work on. And it's just it's exciting. I know it sounds so silly because it's knitting, but I know you all completely understand the excitement. It's so much fun to have this yarn, and I'm using it in 2 or 3 projects. There are times where I might have a 10-gram mini, for example, and I use 4 grams in here, and then I use 6 in here. So there are definitely times where not all of the yarns are going to go in this blanket, but most of them do. Usually if I have a 10-gram mini, I'll use then 4 or so in here. I'm not measuring my yarn at all, but once you knit with the minis, you have an idea how big 10 grams is or 4 grams is when you're knitting it into the Jelly Roll blanket, that you know how much you need to get a stripe or 2 in here. And I use it all until the end, magic knotted in, and I'm enjoying it so much. So I'm doing something different for the Cozy Comfort Throw here, just making it easier. Before I just had a garter stitch panel here where I was picking up to do the I-cord edging, but I have done it here the same way Kay does it in her Jelly Roll blanket. And that just will make it so much easier when I do my I-cord border. I could do an attached I-cord at the end here, where before I knit all of my stitches or at the last end of my rows, I slip the last 2 or 3 or 1, depending upon how large I want the I-cord to look. but I so much prefer an I-cord border at the end. It gives it so much more structure. And I think it pulls it so much more together to have that one color of the I-cord going around rather than it just being the color of whatever stripe was left. So I prefer that much more. I've seen people knitting the Cozy Comfort Throw with doing an I-cord. I don't even know what you would call it. Just doing an I-cord into your knitting, basically. So I know Stephen West does that quite a bit with his shawls. I just love for a blanket doing it at the end. I really like that effect. So I am loving my blankets so much. I think it's very, very possible that I'm going to be dyeing up yarn for a boucle blanket in the next few months here. Just because it's a lot of fun to knit. And I think this one would be very quick to have knit and finished. Just because you have those color blockings, I don't know, I feel like all of these blankets in a way just kind of knit themselves because of that constant change of color. The Cozy Memories blanket is definitely going to be one that takes longer. This is one that will probably be the last of all of them that's finished. I don't know though. I don't know, we'll see. So I'm really enjoying it. I'm really, really enjoying all of these projects. There's so much color, a lot of different techniques with the squirrel, the blankets, simple socks, finishing up the sweater, that it's been, I kind of always have something for what mood I'm in or what I need at that time, which has been a lot of fun. We're heading to our bungalow tomorrow. And I don't know what I'm going to take with me. I'm either going to take my Cozy Memories blanket. I don't know why I always want to bring this basket when I talk about it. Either going to bring my Cozy Memories blanket or I'm going to bring my socks. I think I'll probably bring my Cozy Memories blanket along to knit on. Because I would like to get this caught up on colors because May's mini skein club is all dyed up. There are only a handful of memberships left for that. There might be 7 places left, 7 to 10, something like that, places left for that membership. But once that yarn is dry, which it's going to be tomorrow, I want to start adding it to my blankets. And you know what? I have 9 squares to knit before I can do that. So I need to get caught up so that I can get knitting those in. Yeah, I'm so looking forward to that. I have so many more leaves to rake. Robert has, I honestly don't know what his plans are while we're there tomorrow. I bought a ton of geraniums. I bought some, I don't know what the names are in English, but Nelken I bought. So I bought some perennials and annuals. I bought 2 lavender plants because I do have 10 lavender plants at our bungalow, and 2 of them, they don't look like they made it over the winter. They were newly planted in last summer, and I think that the earth wasn't so good there that I'll probably have to put in some compost. Robert's parents have so much compost that they just said we can bring with the tractor over to our bungalow. And I'm very excited to fill all of our garden beds with fresh compost. So lots and lots of gardening, planting of flowers in, which just brings the garden to life. I'm so excited about it. And then lots of knitting and yarn dyeing in between. And the weather's supposed to be cooling down, so it's perfect for working in the garden. I am looking forward to the little bit cooler days as I have a bit of garden work that needs to be done. So I will say cheers to you. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week and weekend ahead. Take care of yourself and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week and week ahead. And hopefully I'll be seeing you soon.